Welcome to You Are the Media Now, a podcast about digital communication strategies that go beyond legacy media and empower businesses, brands, and individuals looking to land big impact on platforms that build empires. And now, here are your hosts, Scott Mitchell and yours truly, Ryan Welton. Hi, and welcome to You Are the Media Now, the podcast that we host each week in which we talk to you about direct-to-audience strategies that will impact your business, brand, or your personal digital presence. My name is Ryan Welton, and I am the founder of Doable Digital Media, a company that focuses on newsletters, podcasts, YouTube at scale amplified through vertical video. I'm also really big into LinkedIn at the moment. I would love it if you found me on there and if we connected. I sure would appreciate that. My co-host Scott Mitchell is on assignment today, and so I will be sure and share links to his fine work whenever that comes out here in just a couple of days. He's on assignment though, but I'm all over the headlines, and that includes Friday morning's decision from the Supreme Court of the United States, 9-0, upholding the ban on TikTok. It was fascinating reading, and I believe it was Neil Gorsuch's opinion, saying that despite the wisdom of the Supreme Court's elders, the First Amendment challenge to TikTok could not be overrun by concerns about data privacy, particularly from a foreign adversary. Now, I think that that's the key to this decision, a data privacy concern in the hands of China and what they might do with that information potentially, using it as leverage against everyday Americans. I think that's a big potential. It's a potential, isn't it? But isn't that something that could be said of Meta and X? And why do we trust those companies more? President Biden on his way out warned of a tech oligarchy. And of course, all of the tech bros are going to be at President-elect Trump's inauguration on Monday, January the 20th, which will now be held inside because of dangerously cold temperatures. The first time that an inauguration has been held indoors inside the Capitol since 1985, the beginning of President Ronald Reagan's second term. However, let's go back to the notion of trust. What will happen to TikTok? It's believed that the TikTok CEO has been in Mar-a-Lago recently. I said that funny, Mar-a-Lago. He's been there, and that maybe there are some deals going on. Are we to believe that the People's Republic of China would actually allow their bluff to be called and that they would sell or divest TikTok to the U.S. portion of it to a U.S. owner and allow the algorithm to come with it? I think there is a belief among technocrats and technophiles here that the algorithm could be reproduced, or at least the Supreme Court justices asked that or posited that during oral arguments last week. I don't think it's really quite that simple. I think what TikTok has and has had in terms of an algorithm is really unique and special, and it's going to harm a number of creators and small businesses who depend on TikTok. As somebody who's been a creator for a long while and been in the digital space, the real advantage to TikTok is lack of a barrier to entry. It's the easiest platform to penetrate. As an aside, I'm finding LinkedIn to be kind of the same way, but that is merely a non sequitur. We're talking about TikTok here, and it's going to harm a number of small businesses and big businesses too. Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, has said that TikTok allows him to produce tens of millions of dollars of revenue per year. He's not the only one. And President-elect Trump understands what a powerful communications platform TikTok has been. I've heard from a number of nonprofits and folks who work in higher education, and they talk about how important TikTok has been for spreading their individual messages. It's done a lot of good on the planet, but there is no denying the concerns over data privacy. I would just argue for the fine listeners out there that it's not isolated to TikTok. I think Meta should be held to a higher standard, and X and every platform. Your employer should be. Your healthcare provider should be. And if data privacy is going to be a concern for one, it should be a concern for all. And that is my soapbox on TikTok. What do I think will happen? I think that TikTok ultimately survives with a US owner, and I hope with the original TikTok algorithm. My gut, and I was wrong about the Supreme Court's decision. I thought that they would overturn it on the basis of least restrictive means under the concept of strict scrutiny, which just says that if you're going to ban something like this, uh, are you at least doing the minimum required to make it happen? Like if I only have to lift weights one time a week to really show some gains, that's what we should go for. That's a strange metaphor there, but I think you see what I'm saying. And banning the app seems to be extreme. The Supreme Court, though, voted 9-0. And when the Supreme Court votes 9-0, I think we as Americans should have confidence that, this is what they're paid to do. See the bigger picture, to be the adults in the room. So I feel better that this wasn't a 5-4 or 6-3 decision. And I do hope that TikTok survives ultimately in some way, and I think that it will. And it would be a huge first victory for President Trump's second term. But let's talk about trust. And this is going to help us segue to our guest. His name is Ryan Grams, and he runs a company called Studio Upgrade. I should note and beg your forgiveness and his forgiveness. I butchered the name of his company several times in our conversation. It is Studio Upgrade. And I first learned of Ryan at NAB, the big show in Vegas last year. And I saw dozens upon dozens of creators hovering at his booth just wanting to hear from the live stream master, and he was showing them all about video in a box. And since then, I've come to learn about where the industry is headed, largely because of TikTok Live and live stream, the QBCification of retail that has been happening in Asia for the past decade. Live stream is where it's at today, now, and in the future, especially for people who sell products. So we're going to talk to Ryan. And one of the advantages of live streaming is that there's trust. You see me, you see the whites in my eyes. You hear what I have to say. It's not anonymous. I am not AI. If I were AI, the beard would be in better shape, the room would be less of a mess. You can trust that I am who I say I am. Whether or not you believe my motives or the facts that I spout to you, that could be a different thing, but you could at least trust that we can have a relationship built on reality. You are who you are, I am who I am. And I think this is something that is getting in the way of job seekers and people looking to change careers and build businesses and retailers. I think that for brick and mortar operations to survive, they're going to have to do more than sell the inventory, the supply chain that is in their building. They're going to have to be able to speak to the masses. If I could order something from Amazon and have it here tomorrow, then I should be able to order something from Famous Footwear or Best Buy or Lids. I love New Era caps. I do. I'm hoping the Detroit Lions win this weekend, but I'm not a Detroit Lions fan per se. I just love caps. Why shouldn't I be able to log on to a Lids live stream at our local Quail Springs Mall here in Oklahoma City? They live stream a hat that I like. I order it and have it delivered by the end of the evening, or at least tomorrow. Why shouldn't that happen? Friends, I'm here to tell you it is going to happen, but it starts with trust. And it's, another headline in the news this week was the fact that Meta decided to get rid of fact checkers. And we live now in a world where truth is arbitrary. And it's too bad because I'm still a journalist at heart. I believe in vetting information, I believe in double source confirming. And I think it is a shame when we abrogate our responsibility to community notes, which should actually be looked at by humans, and preferably journalists who have a high standard. But again, that goes back to trust. Will I be able to trust on Meta what I was able to trust yesterday? I don't know. So I want to introduce to you Ryan Grams of Studio Upgrade. Got to make sure and get that right because I don't in the interview. He's going to tell us not only about what he does for creators and entrepreneurs in terms of leveling up their video, both live stream and on demand, why it's important, his thoughts, predictions for TikTok's future and platforms that could replace it, and frankly, the fact that not only are you the media now, you are the media now, but you are the product now. You are the conduit between the product being sold and the product being shipped and, frankly, retail survivor. I've talked enough. It is time to introduce you to the great Ryan Grams of Studio Upgrade. First off, Ryan, I first saw you at NAB. Now, NAB, when in my previous life at Griffin Media, NAB was mostly a conference for techies and gadget heads and engineers, and I'm a content guy, so I found myself at the Jim Louderback Creator Economy booth, and I saw this guy with black glasses and a hat and a throng of people at your booth, and I was like, "What's going on over here?" And so I saw, okay, Ryan Graham's Studio Upgrade. No, I'm going to reach out at some point. But then I discovered that you and I technically used to work together.
Yeah.
At a company called Internet Broadcasting, formerly Internet Broadcasting Systems, based in Minnesota. I worked in Oklahoma City as a digital editor for KOCO.com, and of course, Hearst and Internet Broadcasting had a partnership. So we're former colleagues, but I'm glad to get to know you in this capacity because the headlines with the TikTok ban being upheld today, it's a
Yep.
big deal, but live streaming and retail live shopping are not going away. So, Ryan, introduce yourself. Tell me what you do with Studio Upgrade, what your mission is, and maybe give me to start your reaction to the TikTok ban and what does it mean for people whose businesses are depending right now on the ability to sell products and services online via live stream.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to watch this whole thing happen. I feel like we've never seen something like this ban happening at such a large scale with such like it feels so immediate, even though we've known it's coming, but like nothing happened. Nobody decided to sell it. Nothing. They're like, no, we're not going to sell. So the fact that it's being upheld and that it's looming, it's about to happen, has just been so strange to watch. And yeah, I think for me, the saddest part is so many different creators and especially like small businesses. Like there's this woman I found who makes these books about drawing that my kids love that I discovered on TikTok. And she sells most of her wares through, getting her word out on her viral videos on TikTok. It's like, man, that really is unfortunate for a lot of these creators, a lot of these small businesses. And so that being said, it's obviously going to leave a hole, a giant gaping hole in the market and demand for this kind of stuff. So there's platforms like Red Note, and of course there's all these other ones that are popping up. I've been watching for a long time what's going on with Whatnot, which is a live, it's like eBay Live, and you could like bid on things with really, really very, very low latency, which makes it work, and it's really fascinating stuff. And of course, Amazon has their influencers program where you can create videos that sell as well as live stream on those platforms and buy right on the streams, especially if you've got like a Fire TV. There's a lot of really interesting things happening inside of the e-commerce streaming and video world, right? And so I'm just really interested to see what happens with the next iteration. Of course, Red Note being another Chinese company, I can't imagine that being something that's going to stick around very long if that's the same issues that we're having with TikTok, from a government mandating standpoint, right? But it's pretty interesting to see what's happening. And of course, now more than ever, yeah, having video and using it is a really powerful tool, powerful medium for sure.
I downloaded the Xiang Shu, I believe. I will admit, I've been learning Mandarin, and by the way,
What? Do you really?
was not prompted by this. My wife, I said, "Christy, you're the only proof I have of this. I started months ago." But yeah, no, I'm actually it's through Duolingo. But
Awesome.
and why? Because it's the second most spoken language on the planet.
Yeah.
And so, why wouldn't you? It's a fascinating app so far, and I'm going to try to learn it, but I don't know. Are there any apps for live streaming, live shopping? Is there an honest error? Is there somebody who you think will could it be Instagram or YouTube? Or do you think maybe Flip? Is there something there that you see as they're up next?
Yeah, I haven't looked into Flip yet. I'll have to learn more about that. But we've been seeing obviously Meta dabbling with Instagram shops and those types of things. And quite frankly, it's underwhelming. The ability to use it as a shopping platform. Admittedly, I've definitely made purchases, especially for me. It's like the things I'm really into that I find myself getting advertised for, right, are like music, some of the bands I follow, right? So it's been like the occasional like sticker package or a vinyl record exclusive or whatever, like that kind of thing. and I'll see it and I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll check that out on the shop and I'll buy it right there. It's convenient, but it wasn't. I'm surprised that it hasn't been as upfront and forward as it is when you're on TikTok and you're scrolling. It's like some days it feels like every other video is a product video. It feels like content, but they're, they have something to sell. And my favorite is when they are talking about something that interests me and is like, it doesn't feel like I'm being sold something. It's just like, oh, hey, here's something kind of neat. So I think those are, I would imagine, very successful in their, yeah, the algorithm likes them and it probably converts well. You know what I mean? So I would imagine, and I said, like I said, I'm surprised that Meta hasn't really pushed that harder. At least I haven't noticed it. The implementation on TikTok was so well and kind of invisible when it worked really well. And so we'll see. Like, I think today, I don't know if you've seen those ads. There's this company that makes this natural gum. It's like, supposed to help your teeth and it's made out of natural ingredients, not like rubber and all this other stuff. And I've been watching their videos forever because they're just very fun to watch them make their product. But their video today was like, TikTok ban is happening. It was the same B-roll of them crunching up their ingredients and doing all this stuff. It's like, we've got one last sale before it goes down. We want to clear our inventory. So it's like,
Taking advantage of it. Get the point. But you don't just have to. Newsjacking is one of my favorite techniques for something.
yeah.
But live streaming in general, I remember I've heard TV executives talk about the Disney model, and specifically, really how live events and especially live sports they are going to drive TV consumption. However, as I talk to people who are looking to change jobs or change careers or small businesses, I just suggest to them all that they have some kind of live stream strategy. And segueing into what Studio Upgrade is all about, you saw this before anybody. So tell me about when you saw this, not just as a trend, but as a forevermore sort of way of doing business, a cost of entry, and what prompted you to just create this as a business. Clearly, you saw a gap in the market.
Yeah, it's quite a funny story, actually. I mean, sure, obviously everybody was affected by the COVID lockdowns and the pandemic, especially with those of us who are running our own businesses, right? So I've been in video production, as you mentioned earlier, right? My first job in video production was working in the television department of internet broadcasting. Well, gosh, a long time ago. I don't even want to admit how long ago this was. This was quite a while ago. And so, yeah, that is where I really cut my teeth on learning to become an editor and then a shooter. And I got eventually another job where I was kind of a shooter, producer, editor. And then from there, I started just freelancing, going on my own. And so I did that. I freelanced for about, 8 years. I had a production company, still have the production company. Uptop Films is my production company. And COVID hits though, and everything stops, of course. Everything. I was doing event videos and like gala fundraiser videos. Like there's no event videos happening, right? So my first big transition though was to say, okay, how could I help people with remote video production? And that turned into, well, everybody's doing Zoom calls. How could I help people build professional setups? Just like you and I, we're on a Zoom call right now, but how could I do that with a better camera, better lighting, better audio, right? And so I started designing these systems that eventually turned into these kits that I would sell and ship. And I still sell a lot of these kits that have a camera, microphones, a lighting setup, and sometimes even buttons to be able to change camera angles and all that kind of stuff. And so that transition though, back in 2020, right, is really completely changed the way that I do business. So I have a studio here in St. Paul, Minnesota, where we can record podcasts here in studio. And really what it is though, is the ultimate demo, right? So most of what I do is build either custom setups or some of my pre-built setups, for people that want to have a upgraded studio, right? For their content creation, for their live streams, for their webinars, for their whatever it might be, so that you can walk in, hit one button, the whole system turns on, and you can just start recording without having to have a technician on hand, which is what I used to be. I used to be the guy that would show up, right, to shoot the video of you and let's interview, all this stuff. And now it's like everything can be done remote, especially if you can dedicate your office. I don't have an office anymore. I have a studio. This is it, and so that's what I do. And I also just do a lot of hourly consulting, and we're trying to get some group coaching and things off the ground as well. But yeah, Studio Upgrade and Uptop Films, the production company, and Studio Upgrade are the two ways that I make a living, basically, right? Is still doing a little bit of video production, really not much. And most of the focus these days, though, is on, and of course, that's blended worlds. What I am doing is still video production, just in this really kind of unique niche. So it's been a blast on that.
And you're helping people at what I call a point of paralysis.
Yeah.
you're probably not going to be, if you're thinking about the funnel of a person who has a business and they're creating content for themselves. I'm a big believer that sure, go after earned media, but you need to be able to create this content yourself. And so
Mhm.
it's probably not somebody who's going to reach out to you at the beginning of their journey. They're probably going to start with the phone, but they're going to find that live streaming uh, produces a reach that they were not able to get
Yeah.
in video. And eventually they're going to want to level up their game. So, um, is the first interaction usually about a video kit in a box, or do you try to kind of find out, what they know about video first and then sort of, like, customize a solution for them?
For me right now, it really is, hey, a lot like we just kind of connected on, I think it was LinkedIn after NAB, right? It's like, hey, hey, what's your world? What's going on? And sometimes it's stuff like this where we want to just have a, a podcast, interview, or it's we want to just kind of shoot the breeze a little bit about what's going on in the industry. But for those who are looking to, yeah, level up, there's upgrade their setup, whether it's for content creation, whether it's for live streaming. The unique thing about the my approach, the way that I build the kits as well as the studios, the custom studios, is that it's an extremely versatile setup. My approach is that right now we're on Zoom doing a podcast. I also record my own individual podcast here in the same setup. I also record my TikTok videos. I can just hit a button here and go between different, camera angles and that sort of thing. Right. So there's a lot of different ways that we can use these setups. Right. And so, yeah, having that ability to be flexible is the unique approach. And so for those who are like, hey, what do I need? All I start all the conversations with is, what are you doing? Well, what's the way currently that you're connecting? And then it's like, what do you want to be doing more of? Right. A lot of people these days just think it used to be, hey, I want to look good on Zoom. And obviously we're still doing that. But now what I hear the most of is, hey, I need to look better in my social media videos. And I need a setup that I don't have to like set up and tear down every time. I just want it ready to go. Right. So that's where my setups often are used. I think the entry point often is that I need something for my social media content. And then I'm like, and by the way, you can use this for long form YouTube. You could live stream to YouTube. You could be doing your Zoom calls and your webinars. So let's have a system that lets you grow into it, right? And out of the box, so it's got all that functionality. So, but of course, my first questions is about what they are doing and what they want to be doing more of.
And sometimes when I talk to a client, I feel like I'm seeing a little bit into the future. For
Yeah.
example, the reason why TikTok jumped all over retail live shopping is because China's been doing this since 2016. And as a general rule, I find that whatever is happening in Asia is going to happen here a decade later. With
Mhm.
that said, I don't think that retail live shopping on these platforms, whatever they might be, is going away. And in fact,
Yeah.
I have this hunch that brick and mortars are going to
Yes.
get into the live stream game as if you might walk by famous footwear and part of the store would be cordoned off with the live stream. But you told me about this initiative. I don't know how much you want to say about it, but where you would
I'd
help
love to talk about it. Yep.
get a physical location dedicated to themselves to set up if they didn't have the space in their brick and mortar.
Yeah, exactly. So, the closest example, and honestly, it's not quite being used to this extent yet, and I do see the possibility there. Our big claim to fame here in the state of Minnesota, right? If you come to Minnesota, what are you going to do? We're going to go to the Mall of America, right? And so, a friend of mine who I've become close with over the last couple of years is I can't remember his title at the Mall of America, but Dan Jasper. He had me come in and design a versatile podcast studio for the Mall of America, and we built this thing on a giant desk on wheels that just barely fits into an elevator and through doorways, right? And it's got 3 cameras, 4 lights, a Mac Mini, 2 computer screens, everything like mounted to this desk. It was a total, complete custom setup so that it could be used in a very flexible fashion. Now it's actually sitting in a room and just record the podcast there every week. And so it's still getting used. But that idea, like I definitely, exactly what you're describing, I can see the future. It's coming, right? Where we need more retail is going to need other ways to get to their audiences. I mean, it's crazy the fact that you can go on Amazon right now and order something that'll be delivered in a few hours that same day, right? That's really kind of removing the need for a lot of these brick and mortars. So the only way that I see brick and mortar is going to keep up is by having similar ways to reach audiences and still order things. And maybe it is still pick up in store. There's a lot of, I'm not too concerned about the actual way it gets facilitated, the orders, but the actual talking about them and and having creators, whether it's like they have employees talking about stuff, you could have people come in and use the booth. Like there's so many different ways this could be set up. I see, and one of the things I'm working on, as you were alluding to here, is a sort of a almost like its own retail spot where anybody, and I'm testing this here in my studio in St. Paul, where anybody can come in and use it. Right now, obviously, the common use would be like a podcast studio. But how great would it be to have something like what I'm at right now, where I could have, I've even got an overhead camera here if I wanted to do like a picture-in-picture of me giving product demos and that sort of thing at the push of a button that anybody could use to talk about just about any kind of product, and have different backgrounds that would show up at the push of a button. You can have your logo up there instead of my logo, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of ways that I see a versatile live streaming / content creation studio. And even this video that we're doing, this interview we're doing right now, I'm recording the vertical version for my content, it's taking snippets from it, right? But a different camera angle. And I'm at the same time sending it to you over Zoom, right? So there's a lot of different ways that this content can be used. Same thing for e-commerce. It's no different. Whether it's a podcast, whether it's talking about product demos, whether it's whatever, there's such a hunger and a need to just blast the internet with what you have. Right? So it has to be efficient. It has to be easy. It has to be good looking, right? It has to be clear what it is that you're showing, and I think that's probably especially on the retail realm where it's going to, because my background is in like as a marketer, right? And I know how deeply brands care about the representation, getting the colors right and the lighting just right, all that kind of stuff. So you can't just bust out your phone. It's like the whole gold, blue dress thing, right? Like, is this dress gold or blue? I got the mail. That's a different color. Like that would be a big problem, right? So it's got to be set up in a way that is going to represent the products well as versatile enough where anybody really, I feel like, could use it without having to have a crew on site, because that gets expensive. We know this world, right? But when I was doing video production, like there's 10 people on set, they're all doing different stuff, and it's really, really expensive. So the fact that this is more like disposable media, it has to both be professional, and yet it's only going to live a short amount of time, and we got to crank them out. So what are we going to do that?
Couple of thoughts. First, I want the audience to understand that this is something that you already see.
Yeah.
If you've gone to a Twins game, if you've gone to I went to a Braves game at Truist Park, and I noticed this, and I've seen it in places before. I worked in television for 20 years. But after the game, you see Fox Sports, whoever, doing their live post-game broadcast in the middle of wherever the venues are with the entertainment, the bars, the pubs, the restaurants. It's essentially what this is.
Yeah.
But the other thing I wanted to point out, and I noticed this at NAB, is that the attention you give people in terms of the how to use this, yes, there is a learning curve to how to use a kit like this.
Take some practice, yeah.
I saw you giving individual attention to folks. That's part of what Studio Upgrade does, is it not?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. A big part of what I do. And so, right, as much as I want to, and I'm planning on trying to find ways to scale my business, having different pre-recorded courses and that sort of thing, right? Stuff that can reach a lot of people at the same time. Most of my business right now really is one-on-one with my clients. And often right now it's executives, coaches, authors, some organizations like Mall of America, and I've worked with some politicians and like all kinds of different stuff. But it's very tailored. I have my packages, yes, but I build them specifically for the different use cases. And I'm trying to think, okay, what are we doing? Is it, are we going to be live streaming somewhere? Or are we going to be on Zoom? Yeah, and making sure it's set up. My panel of buttons that I use to control all this is this like Stream Deck running some custom software. But I tell everybody I want to eliminate as many of these buttons. My panel of buttons is filled with options of different things. But I'm going to start blank and just give you the few that you need so that it's very easy and clear and it's not overwhelming to think about what do I need to do for the type of content that I'm doing. That's the idea.
I think that's an important thing, even with the business that I have, Doable Digital Media. So the ecosystem is newsletters, podcasts, and YouTube amplified through vertical video. If there's going to be paralysis on behalf of a business brand, a client, somebody looking to change their career, I don't want it because you don't know how to do certain things. That's what humans are here for. If you're going to be a service business, provide that service. And I think it's a huge differentiator and shouldn't be a hurdle for somebody who kind of is very interested in what you have, Ryan, but they're like, I don't know that I'd be able to do it. You're there to make sure that they can do it.
Exactly. And I really try. I'm trying to get back onto doing more of them. For a while, I was releasing quite a bit of content quite regularly. I've just started to get back on the horse of releasing more tips and tricks. But I do have already quite a library on my TikTok, which, you know, I don't know if that'll be there much longer,
I
but on my Instagram as well, I've got a lot of little helpful tips and tricks videos. I try to just, the content I create, I don't want to be salesy. I just want to be like, hey, here's some things that you should know. Here's some microphone tricks. Here's lighting techniques, that sort of stuff. So definitely Ryan Grams and Studio Upgrade. Grams is Grams, and my Studio Upgrade handle on Instagram is Studio Upgrade HQ. And that's where, yeah, you can find a lot of this content on
I just make sure now it has links to everywhere.
Thank you.
Blog posts, socials, the gamut. Now, let's just make a few predictions here. I mean, and you know, by the way, my prediction on the SCOTUS ruling, I actually predicted that they would overturn it on the basis of least restrictive means.
Really?
I am not a lawyer. However, journalism law is one of my favorite classes. And the thing is that even in the oral arguments, and the justices question them on, is this really the least restrictive means, just going ahead and upholding that? And the justices seemed doubtful. One of them asked, couldn't you just put a warning sign up? And another said, couldn't you just, I mean, or he asked, he says, don't we all know that TikTok is owned by China? And then they came through unanimously, 9-0, and voted to affirm the circuit court law. It's a big deal when SCOTUS votes something 9-0, and it could impact other businesses who are based in foreign countries and who do not check their P's and Q's with regard to data privacy. What do you think ultimately happened with TikTok? Do you think they'll get a deal done? And if not, about some of the places where they might go, but just talk to me, because you know, there are many things that you do beyond live video, studio setups, podcast on demand. Let's talk about live video. Where is the future? Does it include TikTok? Where might it be in 5 to 10 years?
It's so interesting to see, and I think we really did get a glimpse of the future, especially of e-commerce, with what TikTok was doing. And a buddy of mine, he's actually here, just over there working, was doing a lot. It was kind of showing me what was happening on TikTok Live. I quite frankly hadn't really done much dabbling on TikTok Live, and now it's too late. But there's so much opportunity there, whether it's pre-recorded and live, and like I said, I think we were able to see a little bit of what the future will hold in terms of what e-commerce will look like for sellers. I think right now the closest that if you are, say, a seller and you wanted to do more live selling, like you had products that you were talking about, I think Amazon, their influencer program is what we call it, Amazon influencers. I think their Amazon influencer program is probably the closest to, it's like running your own home shopping network, right? And it's as simple as that. You talk about different products and they have a lot of rules and guidelines and you got to make sure you're following. But of course, you know, how can they manage, make sure everybody is doing it exactly right? But it is pretty interesting to see. And so I think Amazon's probably poised to, poised to do the, to really make a big splash in that area, right? If they really were to start pushing it. And I'm again kind of curious why it's not more prevalent when you're doing Amazon shopping, why this stuff isn't being pushed as hard. And maybe they're still trying to figure it out. I'd be guessing there a little bit. But it's both a combination of live streaming, you know, sales stuff, as well as, you know, pre-recorded. And of course, you could take snippets of your live stream and turn them into chunks that are talking about different products. Like, there's so many different ways you could do it. And they also allow you to play back, I can't remember the exact restrictions, but if you're an Amazon live streamer, you can play back video clips in your live stream as long as it follows certain rules. I can't remember what it is. It probably can't just be an entirely pre-recorded video, but you can have different snippets. It maybe is just B-roll, you know, video elements while you are still talking. I can't remember exactly how they have those restrictions, but there's a lot of flexibility, and it's quite complicated for a lot of people to know how to run that stuff. And so maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's the holdup, that people are still trying to figure out how to actually do it, because it takes a lot of practice. And I've actually been dabbling it because I want to know it so that I can teach people how to do it. And even for me, it's like, man, obviously the pressure of being live is there, but also just like making sure you're not messing up and putting the wrong product link up there. And you have to like manage this stream on the app. Even if you're streaming through OBS or your A10 Mini, you still have to like do the product selections of what you're talking about in the app while you're streaming. It's like, it's just a lot to juggle, especially if you're doing it alone. So having help, I could see as one way of doing it. But yeah, man, I don't know. I think Amazon, eBay is dabbling in a Whatnot clone. Whatnot is also another very interesting thing to watch. There's not as many people on Whatnot as I thought there would be. The biggest auctions, the biggest streams that I'm seeing on Whatnot maybe have 200, 300 people at a time watching a stream. But imagine if there was like 2,000, 3,000, 10,000, 50,000 people watching a live stream on Whatnot.
Right.
Gosh, I mean, there's a huge opportunity there. So there's just so many different ways that these and somebody's going to come along and crack it. You know what I mean? And surely it's been cracked in Asia. Like there's so much of this happening already. So I'm kind of baffled as to why it's not. But it's going to be you're just going to have apps. And I think it'll be integrated a lot like TikTok was in the way that you're already consuming content. You'll be like, oh, that's an interesting little show about say you're looking for, in my world, like microphones, right? And there's this guy demoing 5 different microphones. It's like, oh, cool. And it's live. I can ask a question, and he'll respond. And it's like, oh, I could buy it. And it's on sale. He's got a coupon code. Boop. You know what I mean? Like, that's where it's gonna be. You know what I mean? That kind of level of interactivity, right? And I don't know who's gonna pull it off. I think eBay could. I think Amazon could. I think big brands like Target could do something. Best Buy really could do something. There's a lot of brands that could that would be a perfect fit branding wise to really pull this off. But I don't know who's it going to be.
Any hunch as to whether or not I think they figured TikTok out. I don't know in what form, but I just can't imagine this large of a business. Come on, it's a lot of money. Do you think they get it?
Yeah. Sorry, what's the question?
Do you think they'll get it figured out? I mean,
the unbanning TikTok?
Yeah.
Maybe. I think it would. I think the only way I think it would work is with the current way that things are going anyway. Would be with a sale, and I don't think ByteDance is interested in that, quite frankly. And so maybe with the new incoming administration, Trump has obviously said a lot of things that imply that he thinks it needs to, be working again. That's a total Trump. Sorry. But yeah, so maybe something with the new administration, but I don't know. I think it would have to be a sale, and I really don't think ByteDance is interested in that. And it's pretty interesting when you watch how much money Meta has spent on lobbying against this. It's like, well, obviously you guys have something in this for you. Come on.
I'm gonna talk about this in the open, but always pay attention to the agenda because data privacy are not singular to ByteDance. I assure you, they're not even singular to Meta, to X, to all of these different companies.
Yeah.
You need to look at your employer, your healthcare, everything. Data privacy issues are, and that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be something done about it. I get it. However, this singling out of ByteDance, I understand it also. However,
just seems like they're really playing on the fears. Like that's the worst part. It's just really like, oh, that's exactly why. It's like, well, it's happening everywhere.
Right. And so, I don't want to offend anybody's sensibilities, but just look at where the money, look at Meta.
Yes.
Look at the lobbying. Always follow the money.
Yep. Yeah. It's pretty fascinating. I think I heard this a long time ago. I think way back in the day when Facebook started doing advertising, right? And all of a sudden it's like, what are these ads showing up at Facebook for? It was this awesome product. Well, of course they weren't making any money. They need to make money. And so I think the easiest way for people who are trying to figure out why some of this stuff is happening is this sentiment that I heard ages ago, again, when Facebook started advertising, is if you're using a product that's awesome and it's free, you're the product. They are gathering and selling your information. That's why. So you gotta make sure you're thinking about that, and you see it everywhere, right? And sometimes we're willing to give that up, right? That information about ourselves. Okay, that's fine. It is important to know that you're doing that, and nobody's reading their agreements and privacy policies and disclosures. Nobody reads them, which is unfortunate in its own way. But it's important for consumers to have some education on it, and also to know that it's not just ByteDance and TikTok aren't the only people doing this. It's pretty, it's
kind of funny
everywhere.
Relevant,
very relevant.
There was a radio session in which one of the executives at Cumulus somewhere said that they had done focus group research into AI radio talent. And they thought that the audience would not be into it. And this was a country music audience. And what the audience told them was, we're cool as long as you're transparent. We just want you to be honest. I just want to know. I'm fine with it. The audience, his focus group said, we're fine with it as long as you just let us know. And there's something about a trust relationship based on honesty that will always work. And I want to bring this back, though,
Interesting.
the live streaming and what we were talking about, because you mentioned if it's awesome and it's free, then you are the product. I think that applies to small businesses who want to start live streaming because,
Yeah.
yes, you're selling shoes, you're selling jewelry, but if you have a great personality and you have a willingness to go live and to do this on the regular, you become the face of the product. And if the audience can grow to trust you and know that you'll give them good service, and they know that you won't get a bad deal on a product if something goes wrong, it's a huge advantage to put a face in front of your brand. And again, if technology and that hurdle and knowing how to do it is the obstacle, there's no reason for it to be. That's why I'm introducing you to Ryan Grams with Studio Update.
Yeah, Studio Upgrade's goal really is
Studio Upgrade. I'm saying something.
no worries. No worries. Yeah. Yeah. Our goal really is to help those who need to show up professionally, right? In their online presence, whether that's live streaming content, whatever it is. Right. And you said it, man. It's so funny. I never put those two together with you are the product and then small businesses, your face, like you represent the product, right? It's so true. And especially in today's age, especially for small businesses, right? We have to find ways to show up and connect with an online audience. And that is not going to be with just product photos and voiceovers and pretty pictures. No, people are going to connect with humans, other humans, especially with all the AI video that's coming out, right? It's going to keep going more and more back to, gosh, something doesn't seem quite real here, right? We need more real people to show up talking about their products.
To the You Are the Media Now audience who have watched this over the first 4 weeks of this, it has nothing to do with a gimmick. I'm not trying to sell you on something. I am trying to give you reality. Everything is a trust relationship.
Yep.
If you represent a company, if you represent, my business, your business, your best opportunity to establish trust in a digital world is video.
Yeah. So true, man. So true.
Ryan, I want to thank you. Studio Upgrade. If you got that right this time, I hope I don't look back at the video and I've gotten it wrong the entire
I think the first time you said it was Studio Update. I was like,
oh my goodness. But yeah, that'll be kind of funny. That'll give me a reason in Premiere to add, no, it's Studio Upgrade.
there we go. I love it.
There you have it.
If I were smart, I would have worn my Studio Upgrade shirt that I had at NAB. I don't know if you've been seeing any of the ads for NAB show right now, but I'm like the third or fourth shot in there. Oh, it's NAB show. And I'm like, dude, awesome. I made the video.
That's awesome. Well, I very much appreciate you joining me for this episode this week.
Thank you for having me, man.
There, we're going to have it. It'll be on YouTube. We'll spread it around on all the socials, vertical clips, you name it. And I'll make sure to have links to Studio Upgrade and to what was the name of the original studio company? No, it was.
Oh, wait, we're saying. Sorry, what are we talking about?
No. The original, your original freelance film company.
Oh, Uptop Films. Yeah, Uptop
Films. Yes.
Top. Like high five, up top.
So damn. I'll have links to everything.
Dude, I appreciate that, man. It means a lot. It means a lot. Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, Ryan Grams is probably the best place on Instagram. We're going to find the most stuff. That's GRAMS. And yeah, I really do try to put a lot of helpful stuff out there. And I'll be doing more on LinkedIn and other places as well, which yeah, I'm trying to make sure that everything I put out there is providing value and helpful tips and tricks. I'm not trying to sell anybody anything. I want to be helpful. And if it so happens that you need some help, absolutely message me. Let's talk.
The great news for everybody out there watching this is because I've gotten to know Ryan through video, I trust him on this. That is the value proposition, folks.
Thank you.
All right. I thank you all. I'll see you next week. And maybe
Sounds good.
He's on assignment. We'll see you all next week.
All right. Take it easy, guys.
See you next time.
You've been listening to You Are the Media Now, a podcast about digital communications. Hosted by Scott Mitchell and Ryan Welton. You can find Scott at Mitchell Talks and Ryan at doabledigitalmedia.com. This episode was produced by Ryan Welton, and the theme music, Anaheim Blonde, was written and produced by Ryan Welton.